I mean, seriously, they're going to judge me on how much money I raise them.
A huge part of something that you need to be going through when you're vetting out who you're going to hire for this very important part of your event is asking the auctioneer, what is your pre-process like?
A lot of auctioneers don't know how to be quiet and let the room sit in silence. They don't know how to ask for money and then just have nobody say anything.
You genuinely walk into a room and you know so much about an organization. And I've been to so many where you can tell the auctioneer literally is just there to like collect their paycheck.
Where's the money going? Make sure that you speak to that, right? Some people want to know what they're getting back in return for it. There's all these different psychological triggers.
Welcome to this episode of Behind the Success. I'm so excited to be joined today by not only one of our favorite clients, but Arizona's #1 auctioneer, Kelee Lee Walton. Welcome to our show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so you've had a wild journey into becoming one of the top voices here in the charity auction space. You're not a cattle auctioneer, you're not a car auctioneer, you are the queen of nonprofit charity events. And that's actually how I met you in 2018. I couldn't go to a charity event and you weren't the MC, the auctioneer. It was crazy. I just kept seeing you everywhere. I was like, who is this woman? But what really stood out to me was that you were hilarious. So let's take it back before you wound up on all these fancy fun stages. How did you get into all of this?
How did I get into?
Getting into becoming an auctioneer, right? You don't just pop up or go to college and say, I'm going to be an auctioneer.
A lot of people do. I mean, there's
Really?
Well, those are usually people that have grown up in that industry, like their dads, their grandfathers, because it's primarily male dominated.
Oh, I didn't know that either. Because
Yeah.
I feel like in Arizona, it's females.
Well, that's because you're talking about charity auctioneers.
Yes, I
So
am.
if you think about, think about all your car auctioneers, your cattle, your horse auctioneers, all of the heavy equipment, it's all men.
It is.
So if you have a grandpa, it's not uncommon to have third generation. So you got a kid who's growing up in that industry and they see dad doing it, grandpa doing it, and they just start doing it as a kid. So they naturally morph into it. But it is a very niche market. So with charity auction, I didn't even know about it though. I mean, yes, I grew up in Oklahoma. I have been to a pig sale, but I don't remember the auctioneer. I just remember that this is a messy thing to go to. So it's like, seriously, I was like, let's not stay here. Anyway, so, I was in high school. But what happened was I moved, so I was doing stand-up comedy. That was my goal, was
And how did you decide, I want to be a stand-up comedian?
Well, it's kind of like people start going, you're really funny. I mean, I was really funny as a kid. I mean, you know how you make people laugh and everybody kept telling you, you should be a stand-up comedian, you're so funny. So you just keep hearing it. And then in Atlanta, someone had mentioned, it was something I kind of always wanted to do, but I was too scared because you don't know how to get into it. You just don't. And it's a very scary thing to do. So there was a class, this lady mentioned a class, so I took this class, and the first graduation is you do 6 minutes, but it's all people that you know. So you invite all these people that you know, they come in, so it's a very sweet, familiar crowd, right? And it's easy. You do your jokes, they're looking, they're like, yeah, you're real funny, but that doesn't really tell you if you're really funny or not. So, but then I did the advanced class, and that again is friends and family. And then I did the improv class, again, friends and family. The instructor finally said, it's really time for you to go hit the public. And I was like, oh my God. So I started doing open mic nights, and this was all started in Atlanta at the Punchline. And so then the closest state was South Carolina and Alabama. Was it Alabama? Yeah, Alabama. Does that border Georgia?
I think so.
I'm geographically
Alabama, Georgia
challenged.
border, yeah.
Yeah. So, but you start going around to the little states, and they would have comedy shows like in hotel rooms and stuff. Not hotel rooms.
That's a sketchy location.
That's the casting couch. I'll tell you about that later. I'm just kidding.
See, she is
Didn't
funny,
do that
y'all.
either.
These things just fly out of your mouth at warp speed so quickly without thought. It's amazing. It is such a talent.
But hotels would have them in the bar like one night,
Yeah, I've actually been to hotels where they're like, hey, we have an open mic night.
Yes. So you start going, you start auditioning, and so that's how I start. So I start out. It's kind of similar to, well, I guess not auctioneering, but so you MC. You're the opening act, and you're the MC for the whole show. So you warm the crowd up, and then you introduce all the other acts. And so I worked my way up to being a co-headliner, and then I got pregnant. I don't know. I'm not sure how that happened either.
Okay, so she was almost famous, and then
I was on the way, and then I made a conscious decision that because I had been I just made a conscious decision that I wasn't going to raise my kid on the road. And I did travel and while I was pregnant, I was doing comedy, which was some of the best material I came up with on the fly because there's just so much to talk about, right?
Yeah.
To the point that this guy told me, he goes, you should get a fake belly and continue to do the bit.
Pregnancy bit.
Yeah. And I was like, it just doesn't feel right. But now I'm like, okay. But, because then you see these girls that are faking pregnancies and it's like,
Oh, yeah. We definitely know a couple of
that's
those.
right. You know one of those. That's
Yeah.
right. Yes, that's right. I forgot. But anyway, so I left. So I made a conscious decision to go back into corporate sales and left comedy. And so then I moved here. And so what I was doing in Atlanta right before I moved here was I was producing some of those comedy shows for some corporate clients and friends. Like my husband was the he was the coach at Georgia State University. So he had to do a fundraiser. So he didn't necessarily want me to be the comedian, because he was in my routine. So, but I went ahead and produced a show for him, and I was the MC for that show for Georgia State University, and then a couple of other corporate clients. So I moved here, and this guy where my son went to school was a Montessori school, and this guy, another parent, he kept trying to push me into being an auctioneer. And I'm like, I don't even know. All I could think about was that pig auctioneer. And I was like, I don't even know what he was saying. I don't even know. What are you talking about? And I kept telling him, I was a stand-up comedian. I was not, and I'm not that. And plus, by this time, I became a single mother, right? So as a single mother, then you've got to I have 2 kids at this point. You've got to make a living for them. So I was making a great living. I was doing great. So the last thing I was going to do was, in my mind, go back to chasing a stage job that had uncertainty and build a career while I was trying to feed 2 kids, right?
Yeah.
So for 30 years, this guy, 25 years, he kept pushing me to be an auctioneer. Now, he signed me up when I first moved here to do the school auction. And I told him, I don't even know what you're talking about. He goes, oh, I'll support you in it. And so it's a vague recollection. I think I was just a smart aleck, I was just.
Being yourself?
Yeah. And I was like, I guess we did okay. I mean, it's like I blacked a lot of it out because I was forced into it, right?
Yeah.
So that was probably 25 years ago. But before then, as a stand-up comedian, I did do some fundraising as a stand-up comedian. So I had some, touches in the nonprofit world. Plus, I did a lot of volunteer stuff. I mean, I organized things for different organizations to raise money. So I knew about nonprofits, but I didn't know about really the gala scene. So fast forward, my kids grow up, empty nest, and I'm burnt out, not just on the corporate world, but on life too. So I was kind of depressed. I was burnt out. I have to have a passion for life. I have to have a passion for what I'm doing. I believe that you should do what makes you happy. And then when it doesn't make you happy, find something else that makes you happy. That you're not stuck with one thing. But that's how, the evolution of life, in my words, my life is. So I was completely burnt out and I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I needed to feel alive again. And I was working for a company. So I was a national account rep for this company. We did, signage. And so this was a big event we were at. And I had to stand up in front of a room of CEOs, which wasn't uncommon, but it was all CEOs of big box. We're talking, Best Buys, Home Depot, Lowe's, all of your big stores. And all the CEOs were in there, and we were supposed to do a presentation. Well, I was going to let my boss, who happened to be a younger guy, he wanted to do the presentation. I said, that's fine with me. And I'll let you do it. But then when I get there in the morning unprepared, he's having a panic attack. He doesn't know what to do. And I was like, just give it to me. And so I did it, but it gave me that fear of, that public speaking thing. So it did make me feel alive, right? Mm-hmm. So now fast forward, so I'm trying to burn out on life, trying to figure out what am I going to do. And my friend is still my friend, and he still kept pushing me to be this charity auctioneer. And I said, I will look into it, really just to shut him up. I had no intentions of what, but I didn't know if I didn't want to do it. Because you start asking yourself when you're burnt out on life, and after you're raising kids, you're asking yourself, because you do put your life on hold for kids. So I'm like, what do I want? what do I want to do? Like, what's going to, well, when I was a kid, I wanted to be an actor. I wanted to be a stand-up comedian. Do I want to do that? I was like, I don't know. I've had all this public speaking, experience. I've had all this sales experience. It's like, what's going to make me happy? Right? So I literally said, like, to the universe, what, is there a job out there that I could do where I could use my public speaking skills, my sales skills, my stand-up comedy, my theatrical skills, my acting skills, all of that combined, and give back to the world? Because you always feel like giving back when you don't feel good about life.
That's true.
Sorry, it's true. It is true, right?
Yeah.
Because you're like, what can I do? Isn't that interesting, though, that when you're at the lowest points of your life,
You just deep down, I think, no, there's always someone who's got way deeper struggles than whatever it is that you're going through, right?
Yes.
Not to diminish anything that someone's been through, but there's a single mom out there who's like just lost her job, can't afford to feed her kids, and she's got like a newborn,
Yes.
Like that's a severely stressful situation to be in versus, say being burnt out at your job that was a high paying job, right? And like financially being all right.
Right, exactly.
It's a different set of stressors.
Exactly. But I just find it interesting that you don't say out loud to yourself, okay, well, here's the cure to feeling better is to help somebody else. You don't say it out loud. I guess innately or intuitively, you go, you know what, I want to see if I can help someone else. Can I help the world? Can I make the world a better place?
Yeah.
So can I take all these skills that I've acquired and can I make the world a better place? And I'm not really concerned about money because I was making great money. I mean, I was very successful, made great money. And that's good. There's nothing wrong with making great money. Money is what we live with, right? That's what supports us. But it wasn't making me, I needed something to fuel my soul more. So I went and checked out another auctioneer and I was like, yeah, I could do this. But all I wanted to do was help her in the ring, So I did the ringing. I was like, I'll just do this. This feels good. This is what, it forces you to get dressed up and go out to a party. Yep. It forces you, you're helping raise money for a charity. I thought, this is great. But everybody seemed to be pushing me towards the stage, which again, I was like, why? It is nerve-wracking. Public speaking is the number one.
But if you can do stand-up comedy, I think you could probably do anything in this life.
I would have to agree with you on that.
That's terrifying.
It is.
You couldn't pay me. A, I'm not a funny person, but B, you could not pay me to do that.
You are kind of funny.
I mean, and not like you. I can't just whip it out as fast as you do. Like right off the fly. Just off we go.
You are pretty funny though. But the thing about stand-up comedy is that the difference between stand-up comedy and, for instance, a charity gala. So with stand-up comedy, you walk out on stage, it's you and a microphone, and that's it. And you're most of the time going to stand there at that microphone, and you're going to talk. And so the expectation is that you talk and they listen, and it's quiet, right?
Yes.
So you really have to be able to control the whole room, an entire crowd, with just the words that you're saying, right? You're not expecting anything back. If somebody brings something back to you, they're heckling you. There's ways that you can stop them.
Or you can engage with them and make it even more of like a funny bit.
Well, that's what I meant by stop them.
Yeah.
Because if it's you can make fun of them and you can turn things around pretty quick and easy in stand-up comedy. You can't do that in a gala. Because when you're at a charity gala, you come up, the expectation. Now, a lot of auctioneers will just stand up on the stage, right? And they just stay in that one spot. But that's your typical auctioneer. Those are your car auctioneers, your cattle, because they're used to staying.
Auction, yeah.
Yes, they're used to standing in one place. Whereas a charity auctioneer, you have to be more entertaining. And I'm used to going out into the crowd, and work in the crowd. So you're not going to stay in one place, right? Yeah. But the difference also is that, in my opinion, you have to be really entertaining in order to, you have to engage the whole crowd because you're only going to have 10% of the people that are going to participate in the live auction. So if you have 1,000 people in the room, you're going to have 100 people that are going to participate in that auction. But if you only have one item, only one of them is going to win, right?
Right.
So you want to be entertaining and engaging enough so that everybody wants to watch.
Yes.
So that everybody's paying attention. So it's not, you don't lose the room, right? Now, so that's similar to stand-up comedy because you want to be able to engage the entire room, and being able to do what we call crowd work helps that. But yeah.
Okay, so you start working on the ringing side, and then you get pushed onto the stage. What was your first event that you did full blown as Kelee Lee Walton, the auctioneer?
That was Camp Patrick. Love Camp Patrick. It's their son has spina bifida and it's raising kids for They have spina bifida, and it was terrifying. It was mortifying. I hadn't even been to auction school, so and I hadn't been a stand-up comedian in forever. Right? It was mortifying. It was mortifying.
Did you botch it or did you do okay?
I did great. Are you kidding? I did great. The funniest part about that event, I remember. So there was a golden ticket. So we took a drawing. Everybody bought a ticket, and before the gala, before the live auction started, we'd pull somebody and they'd win. They got to choose any of the 5 live auction items. And one of them was, you could be a firefighter for the day, because there's a lot of firefighters there. Firefighter for the day, all these other things. There's a trip to Cabo. And so this girl wins. Now, there was a cocktail hour beforehand, so everybody's having a lot of fun, right?
Right.
So this table of young girls went. She was choosing. I said, okay, what item do you want to choose? And she said, the firefighter for the day. And I go, are you sure? Because she could go to Cabo. She could take all of her friends to Cabo. And I was like, I think you might want to go to Cabo, and there's firefighters we can get to go with you.
Seriously.
But yeah, so that was funny, and that worked. But no, I killed it. It was great. It was great. It was the most terrifying event I had. It was a small room because they were just starting out too. It was a very small room. I had 5 ringmen with me.
Oh wow, that's
which
a lot.
you don't like.
You don't
now.
need that
I can work a room of 800 by myself if I needed to.
Right.
But now you don't need 5. But that's how scared I was. I was
You're just
like,
we're gonna have all the people.
I would like 20 people with me, please. Yeah. I got as many as I could to help me work the room. I was like, I can't miss a bid. I need to stay on my numbers. It was horrifying. It was terrifying.
So did you go to auction school after that?
Yes. So it's funny because we were just at the National Auctioneers Association, and I happened to have Paul C. Bear was the instructor he's like, I don't know if I could call him the godfather of auctions, but he is amazing. But he was the one who led my school, and we were talking about it this weekend when I saw him, that I was naively arrogant because I didn't think I needed auction school, because I thought, okay, it's just a lot of improv. You can count. I can count, right? Right? I can count.
Surprise.
I can be funny. I can work the room. You're selling items. So I've done all of these things, sales, right?
Yeah.
And I just didn't think that I needed to go to school, which was a very, naive of me, as I said. So you don't know what you don't know, right?
Right.
So I went to auction school, and you really do think you know how to count until you go to auction school, because you're counting in quarters and eighths, and you do it all day long. It's like 10 hours a day. And I learned so much at auction school, and it's a week long. And then the connections that you make. But I still learn stuff from other auctioneers, because you think that it is, because a lot of people, you'll see a lot of people get up to be an auctioneer. They have great personalities. They're on their board, or they're somebody in the organization because they have a good personality, one-on-one out in the world. It's a whole different animal to actually run an auction, to move the money, to make money, to know when to stop, to know when to keep going. There's a lot of things that happen. There's so
many things.
I can't give away my trade secrets.
This message is for athletes, CEOs, and high-level entrepreneurs only. So if you aren't one, keep scrolling. You've already mastered your field. Now it's time to own the mic. At PS Studios, we do podcast production for you, not with you. From strategy to recording to distribution, our done-for-you service is built for leaders who don't have time to tinker. We partner with elite clientele across the country, producing podcasts that amplify authority, expand influence, and open doors you didn't know were waiting. The leaders we work with don't hesitate. Lock in your call before our calendar's full. I've only been obviously on the going to charity events and like giving money side of this equation. And I was really, really in it from 2018 until I'd say like 2022. And then I was just kind of burnt out, and I really pulled back from going to all the events. But from doing so many and being there, I remember that when you had somebody who is not, I would say, a brand name auctioneer, right? Somebody who randomly got pulled off a board or, is funny sometimes. These people weren't raising any money. You know, the auctions were falling so flat. It was almost awkward. You know, you're just like awkward energy in the room, which is the
Yes.
worst. And I only went to like the big ones. So, you know, we have a handful of auctioneers here in Arizona that you can count on seeing a lot. But if it wasn't one of them, oof. And even sometimes when it was one of them, wasn't the greatest. There's so much that goes into it. Like, I think that nonprofits, after working for nonprofits for a long time too, they don't put enough value and emphasis into how critical the auctioneering component of their event is. And if you're not going to take the time to spend the money and find someone who's an excellent fit for your organization, why even have a gala?
Well, the mistake that they make is that a lot of times they're a nonprofit. They're always like trying to save money, trying to get things donated. And what they don't realize is that you're going to spend money on the room. You're going to spend money on your caterer, which is important. You're going to spend all this money on these things. The only thing that is actually going to make you money is your auctioneer. You don't want to go cheap on your auctioneer. You don't want to get a volunteer because they don't, it's a lack of understanding what you just said, that because as you're going to all these events, you can see the difference a professional auctioneer makes versus over someone who has a great personality, who's on the board, or I will even say television or radio personalities, because those people still have good personalities.
Yes.
But they don't understand, because it is a skill.
The art of fundraising is a completely different beast than just having a great personality and being able to speak to a room.
So there's that's true. So like when I talk to clients, like I believe that they have to understand the psychology of giving and the psychology of your group. So you have a whole group of people coming to your event. So if somebody says they don't want to do like the silent auction, or they don't want to do a live auction, or they don't want to do certain components, I tell them you're leaving money on the table. And here's why. You have an entire group of people coming to see you. The people that are in that participate in your silent auction, those are your bargain shoppers. They're looking for a deal. So they'll go up and they'll look, and if they'll see the opening bid, they'll go on it because they think it's a steal of a deal. Very rarely are you going to see a silent auction item get, just this bidding war going, right? Yeah. Very rare. But you can back into that money. So if you need to raise, I'm going to go with round numbers. You would think I'm good with numbers because I'm an auctioneer, but yes, I am. But for this conversation.
No, keep it easy for the people who are listening to understand.
So if you can back in, a lot of people go, well, we don't know how much money we're going to raise. Well, you kind of can. You could kind of figure it out, meaning that let's say you need to raise $65,000 in your silent auction. Well, then you want to get $100,000 worth of retail value items, because historically, you'll make approximately 65% of the retail market value of items.
Okay.
So they can back into that, right? And again, those are your bargain shoppers, right? They're not going to participate in the live auction. And if you ever start to analyze a group of the people that go to your gala, you're going to notice that look at who bid in your live auction and look at who won in your live auction. They probably didn't bid on a single thing in your silent, because that's not who they are. Right? Mm-hmm. And your silent auction people didn't bid in the live auction. So you have those silent auction people. Now you sell all these tables to corporate sponsors. You're going to buy a table. You guys buy a table, and you might come, but you're also going to fill it up with your staff and stuff. And they're
not
there.
necessarily all like, yeah, let me drop $30,000 on a trip.
They're there for the free food in the bar.
Yeah,
and
to have
and
a little
party.
fun and to do something feel good, for sure.
Their boss bought the table. Let's go have some fun. So how do you get their money? Right? You need to think about how am I going to get their money.
Different tiers, yes.
Exactly. So that's where you want to do raffles, because they won't raise their paddle in the room at the donation and give you $100, but they'll give you $500 in the silent auction by doing paddles or raffles, wine pools, heads or tails games. They'll buy all of those little opportunities, and they'll give you $500, but they won't give it to you if you just ask for it. So that's how you get their money, because they aren't married to your cause yet.
Right.
They really don't care about you. They're there again for the party, right? So that's how you get their money. So now you go into the room, you've got the live auction. Those people in the live auction, they typically, they love the competitiveness of it. They love the excitement of it. They don't care how much it costs. It's like we were talking earlier. If you're going to take a vacation, right? Why not go ahead and take it and pay for it through the charity that you support?
But see, I didn't even know that hack. So what Kelee Lee taught me earlier is that if the trip is $10,000 cash value, and then you end up paying $20,000 for it. That $10,000 is the tax write-off because you're over the fair market value of the item. And I didn't think that there was any tax write-off when it came to live auction. I thought it was you're just making a nice donation to the charity and it is what it is. So I think when people understand and know that, there's a lot of power because you kind of reframe it as well.
Yeah. So you tell because so you're going to have people in the audience. So you have this group of people, and that's my job as the auctioneer is I need to get everybody to, so I have this typical people that are going to bid in the live auction. Well, I want other people that didn't know they were going to bid in the live auction to want to bid in the live auction, right? And part of that is by saying, well, if you're going to take a trip, if you were planning on going on a trip or a vacation this year, do it now and support ABC this or ABC. It's a cause they already support, right?
Right.
So yeah, it's an excellent way to help. So you're taking a vacation, you're helping the charity, the cause of your choice, and you get a tax write-off. And so then it becomes a bidding war, and it's super fun, right? But those are your competitive people, right? They don't care what it's going to cost. They're going to have fun. They like the excitement of it.
Yes.
So now then you go into your paddle raise. So the paddle raise is where the most of your money should come from, right?
Yeah, that's where I always usually end up, because I don't end up winning the live auction thing that I bid on.
Now, okay, so that brings up a really good point, okay?
Yeah.
So, and this is another thing. So if you have a donated trip, if a client has a donated trip, they can only sell it once, right?
Right.
If you get a consignment trip,
you can sell it 17 times.
Exactly. So now, there's all these depths to like when I consult with a client. So now you look at this whole room of people, and if we only have a few items to sell, you're only going to be able. If we have 10 auction items and they're all one-offs, only 10 people are going to win, right?
Right.
And plus, let's say these go to $20,000, $30,000, $50,000 in value. Well, what about the people who have $2,000, $3,000 to spend on a trip? Right? Mm-hmm. So now you're starting to break that room down into stages, into categories. And so how do I get their money? Now, how do I get this mid-tier money? How do I get the big money? Right? So if you're going to the lower money, so if you take a good trip and it's a consignment trip, mm-hmm. there's a low cost to it, you start running the bid. And then it gives you the power as the auctioneer to stop at a certain level, because I'll see 20 paddles still up in the air, and I could sell that trip 20 times. Now, the organization may only be making $1,000 or $2,000. Let's say they're only going to make $2,000 on that item, but I'm selling it 20 times. So that's, how much money is that? $40,000. So I just made them $40,000, right? To whereas I wouldn't if I only had that one trip donated. So it's the mindset also of the organization, for I have to educate them to understand this is about how much money I can make you night of and how to make it. So if I sell that trip, if I run that trip up to the value of 20 grand, it's really.
You sold one.
I've sold it once. Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and plus everybody's going to drop out. They're going to start dropping out. That big tier that's down there at the $4,000 level, they're done.
Sell it.
That's all they have to make. That's all they have to spend, right? It's palatable to them. So you sell it there, you sell it multiple times, you make more money than you would have if you sold it once, and then you move on, you sell another item. This item is going to run up to maybe 10 grand, right? Because you hit the $4,000 people here. Now you get another sweet spot where the most they can spend on a trip is 10 grand. Well, now you can sell that one 5 times.
See, there's such an art and science into being able to do this at a very high level.
Yes.
And when we get the volunteer MCs, auctioneers, there's so much money that is left on the table, yet you spent so much money on everything it takes to be able to put all these people in a room.
Yes.
So it makes zero sense to me. If I'm going to overspend on anything, I want to overspend on the human being who's going to be raising me the money, who's got that experience, who can help guide my entire board and organization.
Yes.
To make that return. Because the return's going to be 10x if at minimum versus what it would be with Susie from the board, who's kind of funny sometimes.
Exactly. No, exactly. It's it doesn't matter how much someone's going to like me. They all like me.
Obviously.
But seriously, they're going to judge me on how much money I raise them.
Yep.
So during the consultation, I do have to get a little direct in that way, because I can't just go in and go, well, whatever you say.
Sure.
And so if somebody has an idea, I do push back if I need to. So during the consultation process, I like to sit down on all the planning. Mm-hmm. And a lot of it, I won't have anything to say. right? But I'm listening to them. So I start to hear the heartbeat of the organization. I start to hear that, Bob likes a lot of attention, but Paul does not. So you start to learn, well, where's Paul sitting? Where's Bob sitting? You start to learn these things about people, but then you start to hear something, and I will speak up and say, that's going to hurt your fundraising. Because the bottom line is they're going to judge me on how much money I raise them. And there's so much psychology involved.
There's so much psychology. What would you say the top 3 mistakes that majority of auctioneers are making? And I'm not talking about the volunteers. I'm talking about at the high professional level, because you also attend a lot of charity events. So it's not like you're only there if you're working.
Oh, gosh. The top 3 mistakes. One is that, so there's sometimes, so it's fun when you have this big room, everybody's, ready to bid, and it's a lot of fun. That's fun. That's easy to roll with that and to move that money and to make it happen. You have to be able to read the room. So auctioneers, you have to know when you can push further and when you can't. You have to know when you need to stop. Where are they still bidding? Is there still money there? Are they still thinking about it, or are they really done? So that's kind of, they need to know how to read the room. But they also, if you start off with an item and nobody's bidding, a lot of them get scared and they start breaking it down really fast. So you're starting off at $10,000, nobody's bidding. They break off that number and they start going lower. They get scared. So they don't know how to stay with their number. They're not confident in that way. So because a lot of charity auctioneers they don't always take this seriously and continue to go to school and really learn the psychology of auctioning off an item of sales. I mean, anybody that's been in professional level sales, there's certain training that you get, so when you go to meet with your client, everybody's heard this a million times, where they'll say, oh, ask for the order, the last person, then be quiet, right?
Yep.
Like, a lot of people don't like that uncomfortable quiet. And I have to train clients on that too. So a lot of auctioneers don't know how to be quiet and let the room sit in silence. They don't know how to ask for money and then just have nobody say anything. So like in the paddle raise, if you ask for 50 grand and no one gives, I like that when there's silence, because everybody in the room is thinking about it. Like, she just asked for money and nobody's giving. Well, what happens is then when I go down to 20,000, it doesn't sound like that much money.
True.
Right?
True.
So it's psychology. So if I started off at 20 grand, then that's still a lot of money. So my job in the paddle raise is to make sure that the people that came to give you money, they know how much the money they're going to give you. They don't need anything back. There's people that are going to give money, they just don't know how much. My job is to get them to give more money than they intended on giving and give them a reason to. Some people need to know why they're giving money. Where's the money going? So you need to make sure that you speak to that, right? Some people want to know what they're getting back in return for it. So there's all these different psychological triggers that you have to know. So if an auctioneer doesn't understand the triggers in the live auction of what makes somebody bid, or in the paddle raise, what makes somebody give. Because again, like when you and I go shopping, there's need, greed, fear of loss, and association. Same thing happens at an auction. And if an auctioneer doesn't understand how those psychological triggers work and how to activate them, then they're leaving money on the table. Because, and it's not the people's fault. It's not the people's fault. Because they'll give you the money. You just have to know how to ask for it. And you have to ask for it in different ways.
What's your third?
Oh, wow. Did I only give you 2?
Yeah.
So what did I say the first one was?
First one was
not being confident and not knowing how to stay with your number, right? Getting scared.
Exactly.
They're scared because they're not confident. They don't have a lot of experience.
Then the next was not letting the numbers be able to breathe or giving the value behind. Like Amanda Hope, you do a great job. We're raising money for a van that goes on the go for the kids who are too sick to be able to leave their homes, so that they can go into their yard, literally come out to the bus and have a play date on the bus while they're battling cancer, right? We're raising $70,000 for it. This is a $10,000 raise. I need it 7 times, right? It breaks it down.
Yes.
And psychologically, you're like, well, of course these kids need that.
Right.
I know what I'm giving the money to, versus when you're aimlessly raising a paddle, which I see a lot of. I want to know what my $500 is going towards, right?
Right.
Like, put a line item and say, this is what this
It could
cattle race
and you have to, yes,
will be going towards.
yeah, it has to and people have to make sure that it's worded in a way that if I say you're giving $500 to help buy a backpack for a kid, then that money then becomes earmarked and it has to go to backpacks. So you want to say it could. This is what they cost. This is what, if you can give at this level, you would be helping us possibly fill these backpacks, etc.
Yeah.
But then that keeps it so that the nonprofit can put it in their general fund.
Got it.
Right? So the third thing, wow. I volunteer with my clients. And so I consult with in the process of planning. I volunteer, so I go spend a day at the organization, sometimes two. And I don't think a lot of auctioneers do that. And the reason I do it is so that, like I said, then I understand the heart of the organization. You mentioned Amanda Hope, Rainbow Angels. The day that I volunteered is a day I'll never forget. There was a young girl came in and she's in a wheelchair and she has a scar, and it's a fresh scar from the top of her knee down to her ankle. And in my little room, we were doing this craft project, and the father was following her and her sister around. And they were doing something for the parents to give them some relief, right? And I said to him, hey, Dad, don't worry. I'll keep an eye on them, and I will keep them with me until you're done. And he said, no, I'm going to stay with them. And at that moment, I could just feel what he was feeling. It's like, I don't want to leave my kids. I've got this one facing cancer, and, you could feel the fear of he just did not want to leave their side, not even for a minute. Well, how can you if you didn't have that experience, how can you
sell it
that
to
a crowd
of
of
people?
why they need to help, why this is important? Because, so that's what I think the next thing is that they don't volunteer. They just show up. A lot of them will show up and say, what are we selling? And they just get a list of the items, and they don't do any research,
So if you're a nonprofit watching this, I think a huge part of something that you need to be going through when you're vetting out who you're going to hire for this very important part of your event is asking the auctioneer, what is your pre-process like? And if they don't have a pre-process, they say, well, this price tag that I'm charging you is me. I show up with 3 ringers and this is what we do. And then off I go. Well, that's a huge red flag, because they are going to be so much less effective than the people who actually take the time out of their lives to go and really learn, spend time, understand the organization. So I think that absolutely makes you stand out. And that's why you are so successful, because you genuinely walk into a room and you know so much about an organization. And I've been to so many where you can tell the auctioneer literally is just there to collect their paycheck, look good, be funny, and then get out onto the next thing. And they don't really know what the mission behind it is. And we didn't show up as an organization or as a corporate sponsor because we didn't care. We care about the organization. So we want to feel like that same level goes into everybody who has that microphone throughout the night.
Yes, absolutely. And you can feel it. You can feel if people care or not.
You absolutely can.
And how are you going to care if you don't
know,
really get to know?
If you're uneducated on it.
Yeah.
I'm not buying tickets to charity events that I don't know or don't care about.
Exactly. So, and if I do my job right, Leila, a gala is so much more than just raising money.
Yes.
Right? It is a bottom line. This is the biggest fundraiser most organizations have, and they base their budget on it, right? Mm-hmm. So it's really, really important that we get everybody's money out of the room, right? But it's also so much more than that. It's it's branding. It's an opportunity to tell your story, to get more people involved, more people engaged, and the people that are engaged, get them deeper engaged so that the giving continues all year long with more people, volunteering, more people giving all throughout the year. So it should multiply. One of the best compliments I ever had was after one Goodwill's event. It was actually then going to help with Amanda Hope. I was in the parking lot going in, and she goes, oh, hey, you were the auctioneer at the Goodwill event. I said, I was. And she goes, I had no idea they did this, this, and this. And I said, oh, well, then that means I did my job. And it was her boyfriend who was the guest, and she was his guest. So that's my job, is so that people know more about the organization that didn't. Now, her boyfriend obviously was engaged with the organization. He believed in it, but now she believes in it. Now she knows. So it's really important, and And that's where my theatrical background comes into play. And my, when I told you I used to produce the comedy shows, well, I also produced other types of things. So when you're telling that, there's a story to tell, and you need to make sure you tell the story properly. You can't just go, we're doing this, this, and this. It's like you really need to make sure that you're telling the story right, so that you get this. It's an amazing opportunity to get more people involved with your organization, and that's how you should grow.
I love it. I love it. So you work in all 50 states. You've got clients
Yes.
all over this country.
Yeah.
Obviously, we like to keep you in Arizona as much as we can to help our local organizations because we know that they need it. But if somebody is interested in chatting with you to discuss their upcoming events, what's the best way to do that?
They can go on my website, KeleeLee.com, KeleeLee.com.
Lots of ease, y'all.
Yes, yeah. Or they can call me, 602-327-3770.
We are not putting your phone number in here. You're going to have dates. You're going to literally be hotline blinging. So make sure editing. We go bing, 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 bing. You can leave in this part. That's fine.
Yeah.
We're
So
not
you-
giving her phone number
Yes.
out. That's a no-go. But
Yeah.
her website was built by us. We also need all of your new collateral so we can get that
Yes.
freshened up.
Yes, we
But
do.
The future is bright.
Yeah.
Lots of big
I'm
things
super
ahead.
excited. I really am. It's been a busy couple of years, and but I'm ready to, it's going to be great.
It is going to be great. Thank you so much for joining us today. And
Thank you,
everybody,
Leila.
all of her information is in the description box below, except for her phone number.